everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Check out my comics, Big Baby and STARCRASHER at KINGCOMICS.CA. Today is Keith Giffen Day, guys. This will be a pretty short one because this is just a few pages that we're looking at in the Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Annual #1 from 1991. You've probably seen this before if you follow the channel because multiple artists do multiple chapters of this book, and I've already reviewed for the Joe Quesada reviews, Joe Quesada's part in this issue. And again, because of the limited number of pages the artists are working on, not going to be a super long review, but I do want to take a look at this one once again because of the cool Keith Giffen stuff that he's doing in this issue. So we've talked last review, the Quesada review of this book, about the Mike Mignola cover. Obviously very cool, kind of peak Mignola to me in the early 90s, where, you know, he still kind of had that superhero, I guess, not the aesthetic so much as maybe the composition and the layouts and stuff, and the anatomy was still kind of superhero comic inspired, but he was throwing those super dark blacks and lots of shadow on top. So, you know, Mike Mignola from 90 to 94, I would say 95 maybe, is kind of my peak favorite Mike Mignola. There's that great Wolverine and Cable pinup that he did. That's just peak Mignola for me. Looks really good, and this is a good example of it here as well. But enough about Mike Mignola. Let's get into the book and the chapter by Keith Giffen. So the last thing we looked at for Keith Giffen was the Dr. Fate miniseries, where I said, you know, you can still see a few of his specific influences, a bit of Kirby, a bit of the Alex Sinner look from Munoz, right? This is, and that slowly he was kind of casting those off and making them their own, and slowly really moving into his own with his style. I feel like more of that's happened here. So somewhat similar to the Dr. Fate stuff, right? Everything he's learned there, he's applied here, but I feel like we're not seeing such obvious influence from other artists in his artwork here. So, and it's starting to get, you know, when I encountered Keith Giffen was on Trencher. I was a young kid, so that art was pretty revolutionary and kind of hard to decipher at first, right? At least the first issue. Later on with the second, third issue, the coloring improved a bit, so it helped to separate things and make things a little more easily readable, visually at least. But I feel like a bit of that visual confusion is starting to happen here, where it's like, you know, you really got to have a trained eye and take the time to really pay attention to what's going on. So at first glance, you're like, what is this? It almost feels abstract. Then you're like, okay, I recognize the colors. So the belt, right, from Batman, the boots. So I guess he's fallen into a cavern or something. And all of this is kind of, you know, some dust that's being kicked up from his landing. So again, as a kid, when I first read this book, a little bit confusing, but I learned to appreciate Keith Giffen's style more and more as I get older. And I really like what he's doing here. Again, similar to Dr. Fate, but the artistic influence from others maybe not so obvious. Great, just moody shots of Batman all the way throughout. He's throwing that huge shadow on where we don't even see the bottom of his face. Now, Giffen was known to use that shadow, you know, on a lot of characters in the past, from the brow down, basically. He used it on Trencher later, and I do think he got that from Munoz in Alex Sinner, because I've seen shots from that book where there's a similar kind of cast shadow on the character's face. But it starts to feel like a Giffen trope rather than something he's taken from someone else. And there's something too about the squareness of the cape here and that shadow. To me, you know, I've talked before about how I have this hypothesis that McFarlane looked at some of those Dr. Fate issues and took inspiration for Venom from the Dr. Fate who had been taken over by the demon with the big mouth and the teeth and stuff, right? I feel like maybe McFarlane was looking at this stuff too and took a bit from Giffen's visual interpretation of Batman into what he did on Spawn Batman, because this stuff here, especially this one, does remind me a lot of some of the stuff that McFarlane was doing on Spawn Batman, and some of the way the cape folds over and stuff. And then boom, we're inside this kind of almost Indiana Jones type of setting, right? Which I think looks really cool with the big kind of demon face and the teeth, the grinning teeth in the background there. Again, very surrealistic, still kind of doing a lot of the stuff that he was doing on Dr. Fate. This one's kind of funny to me because you see the top lip here, Batman. This almost feels like a Mike Mignola interpretation of Batman, right? The way he does it. Here's another shot again of that cast shadow on the face there that reminds me. This one almost reminds me of, like, you know, the McFarlane look, but also with the small bat ears. Very Dark Knight Returns, I think. And the colors in this too. Batman really stands out because he's constantly blue against kind of an orange-red kind of background. Complementary colors, so it works really well. And Batman confronts this weird demon, which again looks a lot like some of the stuff that he was doing, some of the demon creatures in Dr. Fate, right? So this is a few years after Dr. Fate, but the style is somewhat similar. Again, the way he interprets the cape here to me feels like a bit of that origami kind of thing, folded over paper that McFarlane was doing with Spawn and with Batman as well. And yeah, there's just something about this interpretation, specifically of Batman by Giffen, that I think, unfortunately, it kind of sucks that we only got this short kind of 7 or 8 page maybe story in this book of Giffen doing Batman in that style and nothing else. I would have loved to have seen a whole book or even a whole mini series of Batman interpreted this way. And I think Keith Giffen could have done a really good job at it. Another example here with the cape where I feel like, you know, he's definitely overdoing it and overblowing it, but in a good way, which probably, you know, again, harkens back to the McFarlane way of drawing the cape. At least that's what it evokes to me. And again, this is another page where things can get a little bit confusing as you go through because, you know, of the somewhat abstract nature of some of these designs, but just looks really cool and really fun to me. And I think this is where we're going to finish off on this last page. Yeah. So, you know, storytelling wise too, there's a good variety of panels all the way throughout, different layouts, sometimes more classic, sometimes maybe more modern. But I just love all these shots of Batman where, again, you barely see the bottom of his face. It's always in shadow. I think that's just such a great graphic idea. Maybe not the first guy to do it, but really using it all the way throughout here and making Batman kind of more mysterious and dark, right? And just the last parting shot of Batman here where we do see the bottom of his face. He's blown out a little bit of steam here. So what we're seeing is the environment kind of going from hot colors to cold colors. And I guess the environment itself is becoming colder, and that's what's represented here. And then just one last parting shot. Once again, this panel almost abstract, right? If you're not paying attention, Batman and his cast shadow on this kind of distortioned surrealist door that he's going to walk through. And then that leads right into the chapter that I've already reviewed with Joe Quesada and this kind of medieval Batman adventure. So if you want to look at that one, check out the archives, and I got it there. So a short review for today. Like I said, just not a lot of material, but definitely a fun little chapter of not just this book, but of Keith Giffen's career. And next Keith Giffen review, I'll have something else to look at where his style evolves even more in the direction towards my favorite Keith Giffen book, which is Trencher, which we'll be getting to eventually as well. So there you go, guys. That'll do it for my second review of annual, Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, annual #1. If you're still watching the channel and you're still subscribed, thank you so much. I really do appreciate all your support. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second for you. It really helps the channel out, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. Speaking of comic books, check out my books, Big Baby and STARCRASHER, at KINGCOMICS.CA. And if there's still some videos you haven't checked out, I appreciate if you could take the time to do so as well when you got some free time. I need some extra watch hours to hit that next milestone here on YouTube, and any extra viewing of videos that you can do, I would certainly appreciate all the help you can give me. So everyone out there, thanks again for watching, and have yourselves an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents STARCRASHER one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.